Yeah, no, it's incredibly exciting. And we've been talking about this for about 3 years. Mm-hmm. It was your idea. You had the idea before everybody on the planet did a podcast.
I know. Maybe we should have launched it 3 years ago.
I think maybe we should have done, but...
because now we're a little bit late to the party.
Just a little. Fashionably late, I'd like to think.
Yeah, fuck. I'm such a... I see trends before they arise. Same with COVID. I saw it. Nostra-Lucas.
You totally did.
Saw lockdown before everyone.
Yeah. I see a lot of things before they arise. But then because of the nature of our project, they never arise. So here we are. I don't know. I'm just looking at Tom, our lovely videographer over here, and he's giving me the thumbs up.
We still haven't got around to get Tom naked, and I think a lot of people are sad about
I have a concept. I'll tell you later.
I can't wait.
So this is the very first Talking Barefoot podcast, Lucas.
I'm very excited.
I'm so excited too. I didn't think I could be any more excited than I was to have you sitting in my living room naked this morning. And here we are clothed, and this feels even more exciting.
I agree.
Yeah. So tell me about this morning. How was it for you?
It was quite interesting actually, because I think I've done a lot of getting naked in this project.
You have done quite a lot.
Probably have, if you take the hours, probably the guy who spent the most hours naked as part of this project.
Absolutely.
I'm the biggest worker in the room. We present this project a lot about what it does for society or the kind of the campaign side of it. But for me, this morning was very personal, and I talked about my personal journey.
Well, that's the point of that series, Piece to Camera, isn't it? And
absolutely.
I remember coming up with the idea with you in Tignes in the Alps.
Yeah.
At New Year. So it was, and I remember sort of writing a few lines down, but in the end, you decided you were going to script yourself. You didn't need me.
I don't remember what you wrote actually, but I thought it did resonate with me. I just thought...
Yeah, you loved it.
Yeah,
you loved it.
Yeah.
But it's okay that you didn't use it. I'm not offended at all.
Sometimes it needs to come from the heart, and I think that's what I wanted to deliver this morning. I wanted it to be personal, and I wanted it to come from my own heart and very spontaneously.
You delivered heart and a whole lot else besides. So, yeah, and it's great that we are finally doing this Talking Barefoot podcast. I hope it's going to be the first of many.
I hope so too.
Because this was definitely your idea.
Yeah. Back 3 years ago, I think I was like, Angus, this is going to be the next big thing. And I feel like we're coming a little bit late to the party.
Fashionably late, for sure. But thank you for being here. We're very lucky to have you here, of course, because these days you live in Paris.
I do live in Paris, and I'm quite busy.
You're busy. You've always been fairly busy.
I've always been fairly busy, but now I've got work on top of me being busy all the time. So it's overwhelming, I guess.
How do you fit work in?
Well, I try not to go out as much, but I fit it in.
Okay.
And
gosh, that must be a struggle.
Yeah, and sleep less, I guess.
I don't think you could sleep much less than you used to. I mean, I remember the times when you would get by on 2 hours a night.
Yeah. Those times are over. I don't do that anymore.
Oh, you're not a kid anymore, are you, Lucas?
I guess not. I guess people can see that, right?
Well, no. You still look box fresh. Yeah. You still look pretty good, Lucas. I think people would still like to see you in a calendar.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's why I retired. But then I'm back again, getting naked. It's my second coming out of retirement. I'm planning to do as many as Cher did.
Oh, I was going to say, you've got a lot of coming out of retirements to do before you catch up with Cher and Elton John. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Okay.
And here we are in London. And you were in London just a couple of weeks ago to film with the lovely Amir.
Yeah.
In a film called The Rowers Return. And anybody who is UK based will see what I did there, because The Rovers Return is the pub in Coronation Street, the nation's favourite soap. EastEnders, don't sue me. I'm not sure which is the nation's favourite soap. But Coronation Street is certainly one of them, and The Rovers Return is the pub. So I thought The Rowers Return would be good, because it's you and Amir.
Yeah, I didn't have the reference, you see. Like a lot of things we do here at Barefoot.
Well, look, you're French.
Yeah, I don't get the reference, but I'm in. And that's
and we love that.
Yeah,
we love that. No questions. It's just easier to manage. That was quite a nice film, and I think we've actually got it for sale on our website now as an individual product.
Yeah, so if you do wanna watch that, you can actually go on the website and you can purchase the film. I don't know how much it is for, but it's
$14.99. I happen to know.
£14.99 or euros or dollars.
All three. We like to keep things simple.
Okay, well, it's very simple. It's $14.99, and you can spend about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Looking at me and Amir naked,
Totally
and
naked.
talking about our relationship, talking about our involvement in the project and how it's grown. And just for people who don't necessarily know me and Amir, we're very good friends thanks to this project. We've become very good friends. Amir is getting married next year, and I get to be a groomsman, so it's very exciting. That's it for the personal story. We can go back on talking about Barefoot.
Oh, well, I've been invited to the wedding, by the way, so I don't feel left out.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you're going to be at the wedding. That's going to be fun.
Well, there was some mention of me, doing some kind of little turn. Like they could stop me. But I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be
It's going to be lovely. And talking of naked, of course, is where this project started. And we've talked about this often over the years, but you were this 19-year-old French kid. You arrived at this university in England, and I can never remember its name. And suddenly you're being confronted with the idea of getting naked in a calendar. Tell me how that was for you.
There was kind of two feelings about it. There was excitement and fear. I think I was scared. I was scared of getting naked. I was scared of getting naked in front of other people. I was scared of getting naked in front of camera. And I was scared of knowing that a whole bunch of people were going to be able to see me on film. And by naked, we don't just mean implied. We mean like the whole shit.
The full Monty.
And that's definitely something that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with. And so it was a big challenge. I was scared, and I decided to go with it anyway because the cause was good enough. And also I could see that it would help me overcome that fear. And I knew I was doing something right deep inside. I kind of got to know more about it later and understand more about it later. But I knew there was something in me that told me, you should do it. And I think 8 years later, I'm glad I did.
And I am certainly glad you did. And I was really intrigued by something that you said on your last trip over here. We were sitting in this very room, and you were telling me about how, and you mentioned it in your piece to camera, you mentioned about how you were sleeping with girls. I mean, I think you started sleeping with girls at about the age of 7, if I'm remembering correctly. And so this was like not something new to you, but you would not let girls see you naked. You would sort of sneak out of bed in the dark to go to the bathroom, and I kind of love I love owning the idea that I took your nudity cherry, and not only did I take your nudity cherry, I took your public nudity cherry, which means that I'm kind of hotter than all those girls that you were sleeping with. So that was a great moment for me, because it made me feel like, oh my God, this is a sexy project and everybody's having a sexy time in this project. Because I bet those girls who were in the room with you after you started doing the calendar probably got a different experience than the girls who were in the room before.
Yeah, I guess it took me some time, and as you say, you're right. I wasn't someone who's comfortable being naked at least for a long time. I mean, it could have been like 15 seconds, and then here we were in the bed sheets or switching off the lights, and so this is not something that I was used to do. And I think, the first time where I had to do it for a very long period of time and in the public eye was with this project. And it's really definitely helped me outside, but also inside the bedroom, because then I kind of got to know more about my own body and accept it the way it was.
Well, you could see it for a start.
I could see it for a start. And doing it with other guys has really helped me just kind of de-dramatize, or, I don't know, remove the stigma around the male body and my own body, So that's been quite a good experience for me.
Amazing. Yeah. So you would recommend it
I definitely would recommend it. Right. I think, I said it in my piece to camera this morning, before we recorded this. I'm not a nudist. I'm not a guy who goes to nudist beaches and stays naked at home or enjoys being naked in public places. I'm not that type of person. But being nude and naked within the context of this project has really helped me grow, and I enjoy doing it, and I still enjoy doing it. And in the recent times, I haven't done it as much because, of course, now I'm more of a grown-up. I wouldn't say I'm a grown-up yet, but I'm more of a grown-up, and I've got a day job, and so I don't have as much time. And I think, sometimes it shouldn't just be about me, and it needs to be about other people in this project, so I'm leaving some space.
That is so kind of you.
It's so kind of me. I know. No, but when it hasn't been a long time, when it's been a long time but I haven't got naked, and then I do it again, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I missed it. I missed being naked in that context, and it's a nice feeling. And sometimes I can't really describe it because there's no rational answer to it, but I do miss being naked in that context because it feels safe. It feels like it's part of my journey, and I enjoy being naked in that context. We talk in a different way. Mm-hmm. We explore things that I don't necessarily explore with my co-workers or my friends being clothed. Mm-hmm. So I like the topics. We're talking real here, and that's what I like about getting naked in this project.
And talking about real nakedness in the project, I think that one of the sea changes that we all kind of struggled with for quite a long time was when, I can't remember which calendar it was, but people were starting to send in messages. It's about how, this is a bunch of toxic straight guys, making pink pound, pink dollar off gay men without actually really getting naked. And that really sort of really disturbed me, because I thought that's not what I came along to be part of. And so I remember coming to you guys and saying, how about we do full nudity? This is supposed to be about authenticity. It's supposed to be about vulnerability. But if we don't actually go fully nude, if what we're doing is essentially a performative version of nudity, how authentic and vulnerable are we being? And it was a quite a long and complex conversation, I think, that we had. I mean, it's all a bit vague for me now because, you know, I'm not as young as I was, and I can't remember why I walked into the kitchen most of the time. So
I know why you walked in the kitchen.
don't tell anyone. But I think that, I mean, I remember even like years later, you and I would be occasionally chatting and you would say, you know, have you ever wondered if we just didn't do the frontal nudity, how would things have gone? And I still cannot absolutely definitively answer that. But I do know that I would not have wanted to be with that project.
Yeah, well, I think like going back to what you first said, you know, how maybe some people perceived us to be, you know, making pink dollar. I think that was never truly the intention. And I think that as we got the support of the LGBTQ community, we understood that shit was getting serious. Because the thing is, as the project kind of started snowballing or getting big, we were getting support, and we were getting, you know, financial support, but we were also getting public support from serious people.
Yeah.
I mean, people like Stephen Fry, people like Ian McKellen, people like Kylie Minogue. And the thing is, as soon as those people kind of started being behind us, and also all the anonymous supporters that, you know, have supported us over the years, I think the conversation got real, and I think we never had the intention of being, you know, kind of, I mean, that's how I feel. Maybe some guys had the intention of really kind of make it for themselves or make it for the boy club, or I don't know, getting some personal shit into it. I don't think it came from a wrong thing, but we understood that the conversation was getting serious and that we had to make serious commitment. And I think that, as you said, you know, getting fully naked is a very serious commitment, especially for a guy when you have all the privilege in the world to choose to become vulnerable and to choose to let someone, and not just someone, to let a lot of people have the ability to use your naked body in the way they want.
Yeah.
Is definitely making yourself vulnerable, and we made that choice. And I haven't been always comfortable with that choice.
No, I know.
And
you always tell me about it when you're not feeling comfortable.
That's not true. I haven't always been comfortable, but I knew that the choice we made to become vulnerable and to make that commitment was right.
Yeah.
Now, me not being comfortable with it was my own shit to deal with. And that's why I'm still here, because I'm still dealing with that shit. And so I know that it's right. And I know that in an ideal world, it wouldn't, you know, putting yourself naked wouldn't mean being vulnerable, wouldn't mean to be putting yourself in danger. But it's how it felt at the time. And it's very funny because at the end of the day, I made that choice. Nobody made it for me. And I think a lot of people today have been put in my place to be in danger, to be vulnerable, but they didn't choose. A lot of women, you know, revenge porn and, you know, leak images of on the internet. Celebrities have been victims of that. For example, Jennifer Lawrence, I think, has been a victim of that. Some famous people have been suffering from revenge porn, and girls mostly, really.
Yeah.
And so the good thing with it is that if anybody comes and say, oh, look what I found, and it's a picture of me fully naked, I'm like, well, yeah, but I made that choice, and I can tell you why.
Absolutely.
And I have that security that a lot of people don't. And I think that it was a struggle, but I still had the assurance that it was me who made that choice.
Yeah, well, it was very important to me to feel that I was not this kind of Machiavellian Svengali who was like manipulating these young guys into doing something against their wishes. So I'm glad you said that.
Let's write it down.
Yeah. I'd like you to sign a statement if you wouldn't mind. But it reminds me of something that occurred to me a while ago about the difference between male and female nudity because of the difference in the way that men and women are brought up to feel about their bodies. I mean, women are lucky if they are the majority stakeholders in their bodies. I mean, look how the US Supreme Court, which is 9 men and 2 women or something like that. It's something crazy. It's definitely not a group of women.
Yeah.
And yet this group decided to restrict women's control over their reproductive organs.
Right,
And everything in fashion, everything in the way that women are brought up to use makeup and clothes and wear less clothes and wear more attention-seeking clothes. This is all about women's bodies being almost public property.
Yeah.
And even government property. So, governments and society gets to decide what happens to women's bodies, whereas men tend to be not just the majority shareholders in their bodies, they're the sole beneficial owners. And that's how they see themselves. And I think that one of the things I've found most interesting in this project is to challenge that very deep-rooted, unspoken assumption that so many men live with. It's like, you will see my penis when I want you to see my penis, and it will be because I have an agenda, and it could be quite an aggressive and abusive agenda. In fact, it almost certainly will be. And that can be anything from an unsolicited dick pic to, of course, something far, far worse. But what I've always loved in our project is that the penises are sort of seen by request only. People get to decide if they want to look at you naked. You don't push it on them. They're not going to open their Instagram and see your dick, unless they go to their messages. And that's only for a very limited number of people. Well, fairly limited. And you literally have to kind of go through a paywall to get to that content. And I'm quite proud of the fact that we're repositioning the penis as something that men need to learn to share in a completely different way. Not entirely always on their agenda, but as part of a broader agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just carry on. So I was writing, I think it was a blog piece for the Roar portfolio. And I think it's since been published as a blog on our websites. There's a couple of plugs there. And the idea is that instead of the penises being weapons, men allow the rest of us to put flowers in the barrels of their guns, which is a reference to the sort of the National Guard during the Vietnam War protests on American university college campuses in the 1960s. And it's about the penis becoming a peace symbol instead of a kind of almost emblematic part of the military-industrial complex. All men have what in the States they call a concealed carry permit for a weapon, and they know it. And they produce that weapon when they want to. I'm not saying that all men do this, but it is the responsibility of all men to stop it. And you remember in 2021, I got involved in that hashtag Yes All Men project, which was very much about men taking responsibility for the abuse of women in particular in that case. But
absolutely,
it's also it can be homophobia, it can be racism, misogyny. But in the particular case that prompted that movement, it was a very violent sexual attack and murder by a Metropolitan Police officer. Which called into question a lot of the institutions that we trust. And the penis is part of an institution that we don't necessarily trust. And I hate to use the P word, patriarchy. But now that Barbie has used it, I feel a little more comfortable about saying it. And I think...
What do you feel uncomfortable about?
Because it's a bit like saying... I think as soon as people hear you use the word patriarchy, it's like, oh, okay, you're woke.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
So either I'm going to love everything that you're going to say, or I'm tuning out right now. And I'm not going to hear anything else that you have to say.
Okay.
And
well, let's hope people stay with us.
I hope so. I mean, I think that I try not to... I try to avoid that polarizing kind of... annexation of everything that comes along. It's like, which side is this on? And everything ends up getting pulled into this vortex of craziness. But the penis as a weapon is partly it's a long-standing reputation. It's something that men grow up believing. It's something that for a long time women effectively tolerated, if you like. I mean, it's within my lifetime, which isn't as long as you might think. But it's within my lifetime that rape within marriage became a crime. Which is shocking.
It is absolutely shocking.
And so I think the idea of repositioning the penis as something that is not a weapon, as something that can actually be part of brokering peace, that is really what we are trying to do. And I think... I love that. It was like, it started from me seeking inner peace because I had a very traumatic experience of seeing penises at a time when I was discovering my sexuality. And it caused me a lot of conflicts because I would be in a changing room at the age of 13 and there would be guys like you standing in front of me naked, and I would see that you had hair and I didn't, and you know, maybe I find you a little bit attractive, and
hey, I'm not that hairy.
Well, you know, you were tall. Let's just say you were tall, and so I would be seeing you naked, but I couldn't say, "Hey, Lucas, nice." Because I would, you know, you would literally kill me. I mean, and so I had to, first of all, make sure that I wasn't acknowledging what was going on. I had to make sure that you couldn't see what was going on. And I then had to process the idea that I was only actually in that situation because the way that I was feeling should not exist. You... as a straight guy, and you are still claiming that, aren't you? Yeah. So you as a straight guy, you were not sent at the end of sports class into the girls' changing room to, you know, have an exciting puberty experience. I was, effectively, but I had to wear an invisibility cloak. and which made it even weirder.
Yeah.
And I think for me, this journey from Warwick Rowers to Worldwide Roar to Barefoot Man has been about me going back to that moment and trying to make sense of it and untangle it and heal from it. Because I think a lot of gay men had that experience at school. Sports were not really about sport for gay men, for a lot of gay men, especially the ones that were super femme like me. It was really a course in masculinity, and the curriculum was very narrow and defined. And to get a passing grade, you needed to have a particular kind of masculinity. And what we've done is create a new course in healthier masculinities, which is much broader, more open, and better for everybody's mental health.
Yeah, I'm because you've talked a lot, so I need to kind of unpack a lot of things. I never really saw my penis as a weapon, but I can see that it's used as a weapon for many, many men, and I think that I haven't really perceived it like that myself because, well, it could be several reasons. Maybe it's because it's not big enough. Or maybe because I just didn't realize the power that I had just by having a penis. And I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that a lot of men don't understand that just by being born with a dick, it kind of gives them a lot of power, and that we don't necessarily confront that power. And we don't necessarily realize that we have that power. And I think that was my case. Because the thing is, we always focus on our own struggles. And I think a lot of men do focus on their own struggles and be like, what about me? And it's like, you're talking about hashtag yes all men. And it's like, when a rapist is being accused of rape, or when men are being accused of, moral, sexual, physical violence, it's like a lot of men are like, oh yeah, but that's not like me and stuff. And I think men are very quick to kind of focus on themselves and say, oh yeah, this is not me, this is not us, and it's not a general rule. But actually it is a general rule. I mean, men do rape women a lot more than women rape men, and that's the whole thing. And the thing is, why do they do that? Is because they feel entitled to do so. And why do they feel entitled to do so? Well, it's for many reasons. We have put the man in power, and usually it comes from having a penis and being able to do whatever the fuck you want with it. Either it's sending an unsolicited dick pic, if it's raping somebody, showing it in public, because I think a lot of men do that.
They do.
I have a couple of friends who've experienced guys touching themselves in the tube.
Yeah.
And that's horrible.
It's very common. I mean, most of my female friends, I think, have expressed experiencing that on public transport.
And so I haven't really seen it as a weapon, and now I understand that it is a huge weapon. And if by getting naked, I'm enabling to de-weaponize the penis, then I think that's a good thing, because I think we need to stop men from having that power over the rest of the population. I think that's, and we're not even talking, you were talking about the Vietnam War before. Rape is used as a war weapon. Yeah. I mean, we're seeing it in Ukraine. The Russians are raping Ukrainian women to terrify and terrorize the population. And we need to stop. We really need to stop men from feeling that it's within their power to do so. And yeah,
I think that the other rape that also takes place during war that people are much more reluctant to talk about is male rape. I think that soldiers often rape the enemy soldiers, and it's a kind of very kind of primitive way of asserting your dominance.
Yeah.
So rape is a factor of abuse and dominance against both genders. And in some ways, I have a suspicion that men have been ashamed of discussing male rape because there's an idea that a man should be able to prevent it from happening.
Yeah.
We understand that women have a different physiognomy, and it means that men are more likely to be able to overpower them against their will, whereas a man has less of an excuse.
Yep.
But I think the other thing that men don't like to discuss is that both genders, if you like, both sexes, both biological sexes, can be penetrated. And men don't want to talk about that. They want to focus on women as being the people who get penetrated.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've got like enough knowledge to be talking about, male penetration. I feel like it's not necessarily.
Well, we can run through some exercises at the end of this podcast.
It's not necessarily my area of expertise, but I think it's definitely something that I have spoken with my straight friends, guy friends, and it's like, how do you feel about a woman licking your ass, for example? And we're not even talking about penetration here. We're just talking about playing with the arsehole. And usually most men's reaction will be like, oh yeah, this is not for me, blah, blah, blah. Because it's kind of it's a loss of masculinity to embrace or accept the fact that you do enjoy being stimulated around the anus. And so I think that's my own kind of experience with male penetration. I think a lot of men are uncomfortable with the idea that, a woman could put a finger up their arse, or that even could put a dildo, and that it could stimulate and create pleasure, because that's very much down to, as you said, dominance. If you're being penetrated, you're being dominated, and therefore that's not the role of a man.
I think your people call it pegging.
Pegging. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And by my people, do you mean the French?
Straight men.
Ah, okay.
I don't know
from the Alps.
The French probably le pegging. I don't know. But I think it was quite interesting. And of course, Tom was there in Joshua Tree. We tried this for the first time, but then in Toledo, when we did the retreat in Toledo,
Actually, you were there.
We did the perineum sunning.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really interesting thing for us to do as a project because, for example, we never show erections. And that's partly because an erection's a very sexual thing. And it also is either the man being in control.
Yeah.
So you're suddenly looking at a man who is holding you to his agenda.
Yeah.
Or he is delivering a performative experience. And we always try to avoid doing that. We don't sell the idea that the men are naked in our pictures because they think the viewer is hot. Mm-hmm. They're naked in the pictures because they want the viewer to feel supported.
Yep.
And so we haven't featured erections for that reason. But I thought it's actually okay to show buttholes because although for some people that's possibly even more sexual and intimate than an erection, it's not actually. Yeah. It's a way of saying, remember that men can be penetrated too. Remember that this is part of your anatomy that you don't need to feel ashamed about. Remember that this is where your G-spot is. I mean, we had quite an interesting mix of reactions when we did the perineum sunning.
And I wasn't even
shit.
there, so
No, not this time. We're definitely gonna make sure it's included in the next retreat that you attend.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that. You know, it would still be quite a challenge for me.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, because I think like it's not something that you can see on purpose. So it's something that you have to show. And do I want to show it? Do I want to really do that? And it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'm not sure I'd want to do that. I'm not sure I'd want to do that. I think it's very personal, and maybe, you know, it's great for some and it's not great for some others. And it's like some people were able to get naked and some people weren't. I'm not sure I want to show my arsehole.
No, fair enough. I mean, some people decided not to, and didn't take part in the exercise. But I think the people who did take part, they actually found it quite an interesting experience, is all I will say. And it's kind of, I found it quite challenging. You know, I've been curating this project for 14 years, and suddenly I've got these guys lying on their backs with their legs in the air, spread open like they're in a labor ward. And it's like, is this okay? I'm not sure. And we went ahead with it, and we did it. And I think it was the right thing to do. But I do think that we show soft penises, and we are prepared to show the buttholes of those who choose to share them.
I'd kind of be interested to hear about Tom, who had to film all of that.
Yeah, I don't know if we can pick Tom up on the microphone. No, he's shaking his head. But I think he's basically shaking his head to say, I loved it. I just can't discuss it at the moment because I don't have a microphone. Yeah, he's nodding. He's nodding.
He's like, I don't want to do it on record, but I actually fucking enjoyed it. Just zooming in on the buttholes.
So yeah, so we've done a little whistle stop tour there. We've mentioned a few. We've mentioned the Rowers Return, Perineum Sunning, our blog, Roar Portfolio, our monthly digital offering, our coffee table books. I mean, that was where the frontal nudity first it's emerged in still images, and I'm still incredibly proud of those books. I just think they're gorgeous.
Yeah, I think they're gorgeous as well. I think it was definitely part of the products that we did as part of the project that felt very challenging for me, because I felt that digital video of me naked was part of documenting the project.
Yeah.
And so documenting what we were doing has enabled us to grow into what we are now, understand what we were going through by getting naked, by interacting with one another, and also talking about the reason behind the project and interviewing guys and having those big conversations. So it felt very important that we had the filming, and I understood that. Now, the coffee table book is the first time we were like, okay, well, we're going to pose naked, full frontal. And we're actually going to do that on purpose, because the documentation through filming was not necessarily on purpose. We just couldn't avoid the full frontal nudity.
Absolutely.
And so the coffee table book was the first time we were like, okay, we're putting ourselves fully naked and we're actually doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
For people to look at on purpose.
Yeah.
And so that was a big step, I think, for everybody. We were like, okay, well, now, you know, we're not trying to do some, like, you know, implied poses or, like, covering each other and stuff. We were like, okay, like, you know, open your legs, show your fucking dick, you know, type of thing. And it was a challenge. And then, you know, when the first kind of book came out, we're like, okay, shit, like, you know, when you've never seen yourself. I mean, now, like, it's been 8 years, and, like, I look at, you know, I come to your place and I see, like, pictures of dicks everywhere, and it's like, for me, it's normal, but it's like the first time I saw the coffee table book with me and some other guys fully naked, I was like, shit, This is here. This is out there. People can purchase it. My boss can purchase it. My mom can purchase it. My worst enemy can purchase it.
Yeah.
And have it his place. So I think it was like, wow, okay, like now we're making a statement. Now I'm fucking committed, and now I'm like, you know, I'm not knee deep. I'm like,
you're all in.
I'm like beyond water. And so yeah, I think that so interesting, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and I've never seen someone being put in front of the coffee table book and not raise any interest, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, no matter what your sexuality is.
Yeah.
I've seen a lesbian woman look at this coffee table book. I've seen my mum look at this coffee table book.
Well, that is a whole other story that we will come to.
I've seen straight guys look at this coffee table
Yeah.
book, and none of them have been like, this is none of my interest.
No, everybody's fascinated.
Everyone
by
is
it.
fascinated
Yeah.
by this coffee table book, and I think that it's definitely it's an amazing creation, I think.
And by the way, you're talking about it like there's one. There's actually a range of 5.
Yeah, there's 5 coffee table
At prices to suit every pocket. Well, not every pocket, to be perfectly honest. I mean, we're in a cost of living crisis. These books are not cheap.
These books are not cheap.
But we do occasional discount deals.
Absolutely. But to go back on a more serious thing, it's like, it's definitely a conversation enabler, and it's and also, you know, a lot of people will be like, well, straight men mostly, they'll be like, oh, I'm not sure, but even, you know, straight women, you know, like if you talk to women of a certain age, they'll be like, oh, naked man with dicks. I'm like, I'm not sure I find it aesthetic, or I'm not sure I find it beautiful.
Penises are ugly is what I often hear.
And then, you know, you leave them with the thing, and you come back 20 minutes later and they're not even through to page 20 because there's 200 pages on those books. So
Exactly. Value.
So yeah, those coffee table books, I feel very proud that we've done that.
Yeah.
And I think that if it's been the film, like, documentation has been nice, but I think that for people who are not necessarily familiar with the project, it's easier to put them in front of the coffee table book and say, look, this is what we do, and you can talk to them about the project, and it's a nice thing. I don't know how you feel about it, because I mean, you know, we see it from a different perspective. I mean, for you, it's more your art, it's more your vision, and for us, it's been more like us, this is our fucking bodies, you know, like.
So I think it's taken me a long time to realize this, but I think for me, part of the move to frontal nudity was about my authenticity and transparency in the creation of the content.
Yeah.
Because when I was shooting this implied calendar, I was really back in the situation that I was in the changing room at the age of 13, where the dicks were all around me, but I wasn't supposed to look at them. And when we started to shoot the frontal nudity for the books, that completely changed. You guys were saying to me, okay, Angus, you're going to look at our dicks and take pictures, and we know that, and we're cool with that. Go ahead, have a look. And then an hour later, it would be like, you can stop now. But
So, Angus, you're taking pictures.
yeah. But the thing was, because, you know, when you're doing implied shots, there are always accidents. And I would always have this very uncomfortable relationship with those images. It's like, am I allowed to even look at these images? Should I delete these images? And I don't like to delete anything that I take, because I believe that everything that I create is part of what's ultimately a historic record. It's like, not that I'm saying I'm some great artist or anything like that, but, you know, you don't throw away your sketches. You don't throw away your rough work. you keep it because it's part of the trail of how you got to the end result. And so I had a very uncomfortable relationship with these pictures, and to be able to look at you guys and for us to have an understanding between us that I could look at you and that I had your validation was very, I think it was actually incredibly healing for me in terms of going back to that 13-year-old boy and giving me the sense that what I was doing was authorized and not improper. But yeah, we do need to come back to the story of your mother. So
I can tell my own version, and then you can.
Well, all right, you tell your version, and I'll correct it.
So yeah, as I was explaining earlier, and also on my piece to camera, haven't always felt very comfortable with nudity and full frontal nudity, and the book is definitely like a piece. And so at the beginning, I was very proud to talk about the calendar, but then everything else was just kind of, under the mat type of thing. And then it came to a point where it was like, I think it was in God, I'm going to say something horrible. When my parents get divorced. But that was in 2018. And so my mom was going through her divorce with my father, and I felt that it was obviously a divorce is never nice, but I think some of the things that she was experiencing were very much like were very much what we're trying to fight with the project, which is like women suffering from the patriarchy, or for like a male-dominated society. Because I think that she was going through some stuff that it's kind of like it wasn't down to my father. It wasn't down to
just the rules of society.
It was down to the rules of society. Yeah. Her parents putting pressure on her to find someone else because she wasn't a capable woman on her own. They would never say that, but they felt much more reassured as soon as she found a new man, or that kind of thing.
And women not being invited to dinner parties anymore because they're a threat.
Exactly. Yeah. Or also the female friends turning their back on them because they're going with their husband's choice, and the husband's choice was my father because they were men, and so they would always and so she was dealing with some shit, and I was like, fuck, Mom, it's time for you to discover what we really do. And we don't just do a fucking calendar, we don't just raise funds for sport allies, we don't just talk about masculinity, we're challenging it in a way. And so you offered to me, does she want to come to my place in Spain? And I was like, that's a very nice offer. And I said, okay, cool. I'm going to be there for like the first couple of days. And then I left you guys, and I'm like, well, Angus, I haven't really told Mum about the book, so now is your time to show it to her.
Yeah, that's kind of how it went. It was, my recollection was, Mum's arriving tomorrow. There'll be like a 1-hour handover before I go to the airport. Wait until I've gone to the airport, and then feel free to tell Mum about the books, because she doesn't know anything about the books or anything other than the calendar. And I just think it would be so much better coming from you, Angus. And
no, she knew about the films. She didn't know about the coffee table book.
Yeah, well, it was. I think what I felt was like, your mother's coming to stay with this guy that's not a dissimilar to age to your mother, and I'm going to have to say, yeah, and these are the pictures that I take of your son. Do you like his penis? And I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. And so we made you stay a little bit longer, and you had to be there, and we shared it together.
That's true, yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't think I've forgotten the bullshit you tried to pull. Yeah. But you didn't get away with it, and it all worked out in the end, and I think your mother's perfectly happy.
And now my mother has naked men on her walls in her flat, and she's loving it. And she's definitely like, she's really like appropriated her, like she's on board with the whole like, women feeling empowered to look at men. Now she can, every time the calendar comes out, she's like, oh yeah, him I like, am I, you know? And
I love that.
yeah, and she does that with her girlfriends as well, because obviously I bring more than just one calendar, and she hands out to her. And you know, every year there's a moment where they get together, and it's like, well, you know, they're talking about the calendar. And actually, so last year's calendar, so this year, so the 2023, I think it's the gold bats on the cover. And so she's got it at the office where she works with my father-in-law and his partner. And there's like, I don't know, maybe like 50 employees, and she has it on her desk. And you know what they did is they cropped a picture of Xavier, like his face, and they put it on one of the guys' head.
She sent me that picture. I loved it.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
That is so cool. Has she seen our 2024 calendar?
Yeah. Well, I sent you pictures the other day. I was like, classic.
Of course you did.
Classic Sunday in Chambray, women looking at man.
Because I think if we can talk for a moment about our 2024 calendar, it's a sort of change of beat for us. I mean, Barefoot Man is a massive change of beat for us, because it's taken everything that we've learned over the last 13 or 14 years and turned it into something that's much more about come and be one of the guys involved rather than one of the guys who's buying the right to look. And not that there's anything wrong with being one of the guys who looks. That can be your journey to healthier masculinity too. And I think for a lot of people it has been. We've had that feedback. But what we're trying to do now is say, come and be on a retreat with Lucas. We can do a deal.
Maybe not Pyrenean sunning, but
well, maybe not. I've really enjoyed having this little conversation about, looking back at some of our moments and talking about some of our big themes. And what I'm hoping that we can do in these podcasts, Talking Barefoot, is that we can talk to guys who've been involved in the project, guys who've been supporters of the project, women who have been supporters of the project and involved.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And also guest stars like politicians and performers, because performers have to deal with nudity in a very particular way.
I tell you, I've got an idea. You know how we were talking about the book and the calendar being conversation starters? What would be nice is to record a podcast with somebody looking at the book for the first time.
Oh, I like that.
And then we have to record their reaction. It's like, ooh.
So we would have a camera on the book.
On the person.
So that you would get the reaction shot. You could do that, Tom. Yeah.
That would be quite...
You're at that level now where you could do that.
That would be an interesting experience. I mean, we've got plenty of books to kind of go with.
We have 5. Yeah, just to be clear. Plus our catalogue. Thank you for this morning and all that nakedness.
Of course.
It had been at least 2 weeks since I'd seen your dick.
2 weeks? Oh, yeah, well.
Yeah.
Maybe more like a month.
Okay. But before that, it had actually been really quite a long time.
Yeah, I haven't got it. I did get naked for a very, very short moment last year in Spain with the gold bats.
That's true. But that's a year ago.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, as I was saying, I'm just don't have as much free time. I'm busy, Angus.
You are so busy. Busy drag queen. So thank you. Thank you for coming to London.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for talking to me, and let's talk again soon, and let's rustle up some lovely guest stars for future podcasts.
Amazing, yeah.
Fab.